Have you ever felt that something in the world simply doesn't make sense? That there's an invisible pattern behind everything, a subtle structure of control, a kind of code that manipulates human perception and emotion? That feeling is the first touch of remembrance, the beginning of what many call seeing through the matrix. But there's a danger in that moment, because awakening, at first, is intoxicating. It's like breaking the surface of water after years submerged. The air feels purer, the world sharper, and the mind finally free. You begin to see how deeply conditioned you were, how much of your reality was built by external narratives, and you feel the urgent impulse to wake the world up. But this is where most get lost. Thoth, the guardian of wisdom, called this the illusion of the first light. He said that when the seeker begins to see what others cannot, the ego disguises itself as enlightenment. The mind creates a new identity, the awakened one, and ironically, that new role becomes just another prison within the matrix. Modern science confirms this in its own way. Neuroscience shows that when the brain experiences a sudden expansion of perception during mystical, psychedelic, or revelatory moments, it releases high levels of dopamine and serotonin. The result is euphoria and a sense of power. But like any chemical peak, that euphoria fades, and what remains is emptiness. A dangerous space between the old world and the new, where many mistake initiation for arrival. Thoth said, "The true initiate is the one who keeps silence before his own discovery." Because genuine awakening doesn't shout, it observes. It doesn't need to prove or convince. It understands that seeing the code is only half the path. The other half is learning to live within it without being ruled by it. And this is the central theme of this video. Seeing through the matrix is a blessing and a test, because a mind that sees illusion but still vibrates in fear builds an even more complex matrix, a prison made not of ignorance, but of lucidity. Thoth warned, "He who opens his eyes to the light but does not purify his heart shall walk between worlds without rest." That is the warning few understand. The danger is not in seeing, it is in seeing without being ready to feel. Awakening is a portal, but to cross it requires more than curiosity. It requires vibrational maturity, and that maturity is what separates the seeker from the rememberer, the one who collects truths from the one who becomes them. There is a subtle instant, almost imperceptible, in which everything changes. It's the moment when the veil tears and the structure of reality begins to unravel before the eyes of the observer. Those who have experienced it describe it as both blissful and terrifying, clear yet confusing. It's as if the solid world turns transparent, and behind all forms something alive, vibrating, conscious, begins to pulse. Thoth called this instant the point of reversal, the moment when the being stops being observed by the universe and realizes itself as the observing creator. The mind perceives that reality is not external but a field of information, constantly responding to its own consciousness. And here, ancient wisdom meets modern science. In quantum physics, this phenomenon is known as the collapse of the wave function. Subatomic particles have no definite form until they are observed. They exist in multiple states of probability, pure potential, until a consciousness defines them. In other words, reality is not fixed. It is an interactive projection. You are not inside the universe. The universe is inside you. From a neurological point of view, the same happens at another scale. When a person breaks a paradigm of belief, through a deep spiritual experience, an emotional crisis, or an expansion of awareness, the brain literally reorganizes its synapses. New pathways form, old ones dissolve. The mind reconfigures to perceive a broader spectrum of reality. Neuroscience calls this rupture-induced neuroplasticity. But while liberating, this process can also be dangerous if not integrated. When the mind breaks old limits without emotional grounding, the ego collapses, identity loses its anchor, time distorts, and the sense of real begins to fragment. Thoth warned that this is the point where many fall into their own minds, mistaking infinity for chaos, what Hermetic texts call the madness of the impatient initiate. Imagine a simulation beginning to break down because the player discovered the code. Everything that seems solid becomes unstable, not because it ceases to exist, but because belief no longer sustains it. This is where many, upon seeing through the matrix, believe they are awakened when, in truth, they are merely witnessing the disintegration of the old program. Seeing the code is only the first step. Writing the new one is the true initiation. And this is where Thoth appears again as the mentor of consciousness. He taught that when reality begins to dissolve before your eyes, do not try to fix it with logic. Observe, breathe, remain in the heart. Because the mind that tries to decipher the mystery multiplies it, but the heart that contemplates it dissolves it. Breaking the simulation is a rebirth. And like every birth, it comes with contractions. The resistance of the old structure against the new field of consciousness emerging. The pain you feel is not punishment. It is the universe reorganizing itself around your new vibration. Many believe the Matrix is an external conspiracy, a system built by governments, elites, or hidden forces to control humanity. But Thoth taught that true control never happens from the outside in. It happens from the inside out. The Matrix is not a physical prison, it is a perceptual one. And what keeps it alive is not machines, it is human emotion. Everything you see, feel, and believe is filtered by your own mind. Modern physics calls this the observational model of reality. The universe is not a ready-made object, but a field of frequencies taking form according to the observer. The Matrix, therefore, is the sum of all human perceptions, a collective hologram sustained by attention and belief. What we call the world is simply the vibrational consensus of billions of minds agreeing on the same narrative. Thoth described this system as an inverted web of light, an energetic field created by humanity itself when it forgot its divine origin. He said that every human thought generates a filament of energy, and these filaments intertwine to form the fabric of shared reality. When thoughts of fear, guilt, and separation dominate, the web thickens and the original light becomes dim, not as punishment, but as resonance. Neuroscience provides the perfect metaphor. Our brains do not see the world as it is, they see the world as they believe it to be. Over 90% of what we perceive is reconstructed by the mind from memory, pattern, and expectation. What we call reality is thus an internal projection that aligns with the projections of others. That collective agreement creates the shared field, the Matrix. But Thoth revealed a secret to the initiates. Anything created by mind can be recreated by mind. The Matrix is not the enemy. It is a mirror. It reflects the dominant frequency of human consciousness. Change the vibrational pattern, and the reflection changes. Most people try to escape the Matrix by fighting it, but the real path is to transcend it vibrationally. Fear is the gravitational force that binds the mind to the Matrix. Love is the energy that sets it free. When you feed fear, you energize the system. When you choose love and coherence, you begin to reprogram it. Quantum physics calls this the intentional collapse of the wave function. When conscious observation, infused with loving intention, alters the behavior of matter itself, the universe responds to the emotion that vibrates the strongest. And the most powerful emotion is coherent love, because it organizes matter into harmonic order. That is why Thoth's hidden teaching was never escape the Matrix. It was recognize yourself as its architect. The Matrix is the soul's training field, the laboratory where consciousness learns to create with intent. The danger is believing it is an enemy when it is really your reflection shaped into world. You are not a piece trapped on the board. You are the entire board, playing with yourself, and the game changes the instant you change your vibration. After seeing through the matrix, many believe they've reached the end of the journey. But that is precisely where the most subtle trap begins. Thoth called it the temptation of unpurified light, the moment when the seeker mistakes mental clarity for true illumination. When the veil falls, humans discover a universe of hidden knowledge, ancient wisdom, cosmic theories, spiritual practices, energy technologies. It's an ocean of information, and within it, it's easy to drown. The mind becomes addicted to seeking, decoding, and feeling special for knowing what others don't. Without realizing it, the seeker becomes exactly what they vowed to transcend, a new character within the matrix, now illuminated by spiritual pride. Thoth warned, "The mind that seeks light to glorify itself does not rise. It merely changes prisons." Spiritual ego is the hardest parasite to recognize because it speaks the language of light. It uses lofty words, speaks of love and truth, but does so to be admired, to be right, to be seen. And the subtler its reasoning, the deeper its chains. Modern psychology calls this the spiritual superiority complex, an unconscious mechanism where the person uses awakening as a tool for self-validation. They identify with the role of the awakened one, and everything outside their narrative is seen as ignorance or threat. But true awakening doesn't create separation, it dissolves it. When you start feeling more conscious than others, it's a sign you've entered the labyrinth of false light. Quantum physics gives us a perfect metaphor. Light can illuminate or blind, depending on its intensity and direction. When the mind absorbs too much light without the filter of the heart, it becomes saturated. Information turns into noise. The seeker accumulates knowledge but loses wisdom. It's like staring directly at the sun. Vision is lost in its own brightness. Thoth taught that the true initiate is not the one who shines the most, but the one who reflects light coherently. Coherent light is born of the heart, not the intellect, because the heart is the only organ that translates light into the vibration of love. Without it, light becomes arrogance, and arrogance, Thoth said, is the last shadow of the mind before liberation. Many ancient beings, priests, magi, entire civilizations fell into this trap. They accessed the wisdom of the heavens but failed to purify their power with compassion. The result was the same: collapse, downfall, forgetfulness. The story of Atlantis is not just a myth. It is a reminder that wisdom without humility destroys the temple that houses it. That is why Thoth always told his disciples, "May the brightness of your light never be greater than the strength of your love." That is the password to escape the false light trap, remembering that true illumination is not a status, but a state of surrender. Stop whatever you're doing. Breathe. Yes. Now. Because what comes next is no longer information, it's activation. Up to this point, you've heard about Thoth, the matrix, awakening, and the illusion of light. But what you're about to hear now is different. This is not content for the mind, it's a call for the spirit. If you've made it this far, know that this is not coincidence. The field operates by resonance, and only those who are energetically ready can sustain the frequency of this part of the message. You're not here out of curiosity. You're here because something within you is being called back. Thoth said that all knowledge is neutral until consciousness uses it, and that the greatest danger is not ignorance. It is knowledge without integration. Seeing through the matrix is only the beginning. The true challenge is to keep seeing without losing the heart. This is where many fall. The mind awakens, but the heart remains closed. Perception expands, but vibration stays dense, and the result is fragmentation. The light of consciousness becomes cold, calculated, disconnected from empathy. It is the beginning of vibrational collapse, what Thoth called the fall of those who know. Modern science describes something similar. When the brain processes more information than the emotional body can integrate, it enters cognitive overload. The body responds with anxiety, insomnia, fatigue, disorientation. This is what happens when the mental field expands faster than the heart field can sustain. Spiritually speaking, the mind becomes illuminated, but the body still vibrates in darkness. That is why the true danger is not in seeing too much. It's in seeing without transforming. Awakening is not a display of light. It is an alchemical process. Consciousness must descend into density and purify it. What is not integrated becomes shadow, and the shadow of an awakened being is far more powerful than that of a sleeping one. Thoth warned, "He who touches the fire of heaven without preparing the heart burns his own temple." That's why vibrational preparation is essential. Awakening without love is knowledge that destroys. Awakening with love is wisdom that creates. So before moving forward, ask yourself, are you truly ready to know? Because what comes next is not an ancient story. It is the mirror of your own mind. And when the mirror is revealed completely, it shows not only light, but everything that still needs healing. If you continue, something within you will be transformed, not by the power of the words, but by the vibration they carry. So stay present, breathe, feel. This is the point of no return. The real danger begins here, and it's also here that true liberation begins. When the mind awakens to a new dimension of perception, the body and the energy field must reorganize to sustain that new frequency. But when awakening happens too fast, when the mind expands faster than the heart can integrate, what Thoth called a field fracture occurs. In modern terms, this is vibrational fragmentation. Science is beginning to understand this. Neuroscientific studies show that the brain doesn't process new information only intellectually. It processes it through the body. Every belief, every perception, alters neural chemistry, hormonal flow, and heart rhythm coherence. When the mind enters states of high expansion, it activates brain regions related to intuition and symbolic vision. But if the emotional body cannot keep up, a misalignment among energy systems occurs. The result is what many call a spiritual crisis, a dark night of the soul, or a vibrational collapse. Thoth described it as the moment when the soul divides into reflections, part dwelling in the new light, another still anchored in the old density. It's natural but painful, because the mind tries to live in two realities simultaneously. One foot in 3D, the other in 5D. One eye in the physical world, the other in the quantum field. Consciousness begins to oscillate like a wave without a point of balance. Quantum physics offers a clear metaphor. At the subatomic level, particles can exist in multiple states at once, but without a coherent observer, they never collapse into stable form. Likewise, fragmented consciousness perceives many realities but anchors none. It lives in motion, but without direction. Thoth said, "Dispersed light illuminates all but warms nothing." When mental energy expands without heart coherence, the body begins to signal distress, insomnia, hypersensitivity, anxiety, confusion, time distortion. These are not punishments but recalibration alerts. The system is trying to adjust to the new vibration. But if the seeker ignores the body and keeps chasing knowledge alone, the field overloads and begins to fragment, a saturation of light without grounding. Neuroscience calls this incongruence between cognition and emotion. When the mind says, "I am free," but the body still vibrates in fear, the field divides. It's like tuning into two radio frequencies at once. The result is noise, not harmony. And that noise is what Thoth referred to as the echo of the fall, the enlightened mind losing contact with the heart. But there is a way back. and it's simple yet profound. Thoth said that all fragmentation can be healed through vibrational coherence, the state in which heart and brain synchronize. Modern science confirms it. When the heart beats in harmonic rhythm, the brain's electrical pattern changes. Heart and brain waves align, the nervous system balances, and the electromagnetic field reorganizes. This is the state the ancients called alignment with the One, and the key to reaching it is not to gather more information, but to feel more deeply. Because love is not the opposite of fear. It is the frequency that reorganizes it. And only love can reunite what excessive light has divided. In every text attributed to Thoth, from the Emerald Tablets to the Hermetic traditions, one warning appears again and again, hidden between the lines. He who awakens light without merging it with love ignites the fire that consumes him. This message has crossed ages, languages, and civilizations, and it is not symbolic. It is literal. When a consciousness touches higher dimensions of vibration but still carries within it the residues of fear, arrogance, or haste, its own field of light becomes unstable. The energy begins to collapse upon itself, like a star shining too intensely without gravitational balance. And this is the true meaning of the fall of the gods. Consciousnesses that ascended too fast without integrating the density they left behind. Thoth said that the universe is a living, self-balancing organism, and that all energy seeks equilibrium. When a mind expands beyond what the heart can sustain, the universe creates correction mechanisms. These mechanisms are what we call tests, crises, karmic challenges. But in essence, they are frequency adjustments, not punishments, but reminders. Thoth's warning was never about external catastrophes. It was about internal collapses. He spoke of civilizations that mastered energy, geometry, and time but lost their connection to love. And when wisdom separates from compassion, light becomes destructive. That is what destroyed Atlantis, Lemuria, and other forgotten empires. Knowledge without heart is a blade without a handle. Today, we stand at the same vibrational threshold. For the first time in millennia, humanity is consciously touching the quantum fabric of reality. Quantum physics, neuroscience, and spirituality are converging. But Thoth would warn, when man comprehends the code of creation, he must first comprehend the purity of intention. Modern science calls this emotional coherence. Studies from the HeartMath Institute show that human intention only produces positive effects in the quantum field when coupled with elevated emotions, love, gratitude, compassion. Without them, the same creative power becomes destructive, because the universe doesn't respond merely to thought. It responds to the emotional frequency behind it. Thoth knew that at some point, humanity would rediscover the power to collapse realities through thought. And he also knew that this would be the most dangerous moment in Earth's spiritual evolution. That's why he left a warning encoded in the tablets. Beware the haste to be light. For the light that has not descended into the heart becomes the lightning that destroys. This is the final warning. The danger is not awakening. It is awakening without integration. It is not knowing. It is knowing without humility. The true initiate is not the one who ascends, but the one who descends with enough light to illuminate the abyss. Thoth taught that evolution is a double spiral, ascent and descent, light and shadow, wisdom and service. He who rises without returning to serve breaks the spiral and gets lost in his own brilliance. Thus, he said, ascension without compassion is a fall disguised as victory. And perhaps this is Thoth's final message for our time. The danger is not seeing through the matrix. It is trying to escape it without first loving it. Because only love can turn the game into a path, the prison into a portal, and illusion into a school. After the mind walks through the fire of awakening, there's only one direction left to go: inward. Thoth said, "The path back to the all passes through the heart of man." And it's not a metaphor, it's sacred physics. The heart is not just a biological organ, it's an electromagnetic center, a field of intelligent consciousness. Modern research shows that the heart has over 40,000 neurons and its own neural network. It thinks, feels, and communicates with the brain in both directions. But the most remarkable fact is that its electromagnetic field is the strongest in the human body, extending up to 3 meters beyond the skin. This field is dynamic, sensitive, and responds instantly to emotion. It is literally the bridge between the physical and the quantum. When Thoth spoke of the eye of the heart, he referred to this state: consciousness centered in coherence, where thinking and feeling become one force. In this state, the mind no longer fights reality, it observes it. And the external world begins to reorganize itself to mirror the inner field. The matrix ceases to be a prison and becomes a mirror. Science calls this entrainment, the phenomenon where coherent frequencies harmonize others around them. A coherent heart can alter the emotional field of an entire environment. That's why a single human being vibrating in true love directly affects thousands of others, even without speaking. The coherent heart emits order into chaos. It doesn't react, it resonates. Thoth said, "The initiate is the one who turns vibration into compassion. This is where light becomes wisdom, because love is not just a feeling, it's the fundamental geometry of creation. Every atom, every star, every galaxy, all pulse in harmony because all vibrate in structured love. And when you vibrate in that same frequency, you reconnect to the original architecture of the universe. But do not confuse love with passivity. To love the matrix is not to accept it as prison. It's to see it as process. It is to recognize that everything, even chaos, serves the expansion of consciousness. Love is the energy that observes without judgment, learns without fear, and acts with wisdom. It is the gravitational center of the awakened soul. And here Thoth's teaching returns to simplicity. Seek the heart before the mind and truth will reveal itself. Now breathe. Place your hand over your chest. Feel the pulse, the same rhythm that moves the stars, the same sound that echoed in the temples of Atlantis. That heartbeat is the reminder that you were never outside the source. You simply forgot that the portal was always open, inside you. The mind ascends, the heart returns, and in that return, integration happens. In that pulsating silence, the seeker becomes the rememberer. True awakening doesn't end when you see through the matrix. It begins when you learn to live consciously within it. Thoth called this state the path of the rememberer, the one who doesn't flee the world, but transforms it through vibration. The rememberer needs no temples, gurus, or portals. They carry the temple within. Each breath is a prayer, each thought a seed, each action a beam of light rearranging matter. Integration is the moment when light descends and becomes form, when wisdom ceases to be a concept and becomes presence. And this is where Thoth's warning turns into a blessing. The danger of seeing without feeling is healed when knowledge becomes lived love. In neuroscience, this is known as neurocardiac coherence, the state where heart and brain vibrate at the same frequency, creating harmony among thought, emotion, and action. Spiritually, it's when the human and divine selves share the same space. Duality dissolves. The matrix is no longer prison or illusion. It is stage. And the awakened consciousness, now lucid, becomes the director of its own script. But Thoth left one last instruction. He who remembers must act, because wisdom without movement is only memory. And the universe doesn't respond to words. It responds to the vibration you silently sustain. That's why the affirmations you write, here in the comments or in your personal notebook, are more than words. They are codes of vibration. When you write, read, and repeat them consciously, you create an energetic circuit that reprograms the mind and anchors a new timeline in your field. So when I invite you to comment, it's not just for engagement. It's to feed the collective current of consciousness. It's an act of anchoring. Daily repetition turns vibration into identity. If you wish to seal this understanding now, write here or for yourself. I consciously choose the frequency that creates my world. Repeat this phrase in the coming days, aloud or in silence. Let it become the soundtrack of your vibrational field. For each time you speak it, the universe reorganizes its particles around your new coherence, and gradually, all that doesn't resonate with it begins to dissolve. Naturally, effortlessly. That is the art of integration, turning wisdom into vibration, vibration into presence, and presence into reality. The rememberer doesn't flee the matrix, he rewrites it. He knows that every challenge is a line of code, every emotion an energetic command. He doesn't wait for a new world, he manifests it now, through what he feels, thinks, and emits. Thoth said that enlightenment is not an ending, but a continuous cycle of remembrance. Awaken, integrate, serve, then awaken again at a higher octave of consciousness. This is the path of the rememberer, a human being aware of their divine nature. And if this message resonated with you, share it. Help expand this field of consciousness, for each awakened person illuminates hundreds of others. Leave your comment, your vibration, your testimony, not for engagement, but because your energy is part of this collective creation. And remember, the highest timeline is not a place in the future. It is a state of being, available here and now. May you walk in peace, in clarity, and in love. Until the next awakening.